sponsoring this day of action on behalf of Ben Jealous. It's a rare privilege, I think, for us to have a candidate like Ben to back. There's so many times when we have to find somebody who's sort of close to what it is that we're seeking in an elected leader. But that's not the case with Ben. So it's really it's a privilege because he's a bold and progressive leader who has a proven track record of building coalitions to get things done. And he's spent his whole life literally fighting for civil rights, and he's always fought for union workers. His story, when you know about his background, it proves that he has the courage to lead, and he has the experience to know how to get things done and to pull people together to get things done. We know, especially in the union movement, that change isn't easy. It takes a lot of work. You have to get a lot of people involved. You have to be very persistent. And Ben knows that better than any candidate I think we've seen in many years. In the 1990s, Ben was actually a CWA member in Jackson, Mississippi, where he So we're really proud to call him one of our own. At 35, he was named the youngest ever national president of the NAACP. And it was in those years that Ben worked alongside CWA and the Sierra Club to help us found the Democracy Initiative to fight for restoration of voting rights. The Democracy Initiative is still doing its work. It's fighting to get big money out of politics, expand the voting rolls, fighting voter ID laws, and to make sure that we can rewrite the Senate rules so that we won't be able to filibuster important legislation that's going through. So that's a great legacy. Here's Susan. Let's give a big cheer for Susan and amazing running mate. So Ben understands the importance of good union jobs, not only to our economy here in Maryland, but to our families and to our communities. When Maryland workers at this local and surrounding locals were on the picket lines at Verizon, Ben was right there with us on our picket lines. He's the only candidate who's not pretending that health care is not a problem for our economy here. Ben's plan for Medicare for All is a bold plan. It's the change that we need, and it's won support from nurses unions all across the state. He was an early supporter of the calls for $15 in a union. That's become a little more trendy now, but Ben was with us. So it's no surprise he's won a lot of labor backing, not just from us at CWA, but from the state's largest teachers union, the Maryland State Education Association. The postal workers, SEIU, Unite Here. Other progressive groups, Maryland Working Families, Progressive Maryland, Our Revolution, Democracy for America, People's Action, Freeception.org. And some of the best senators we have in the United States Senate, that's Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, and Cory Booker. Ben was named Marylander of the Year, many of you know, for his role in fighting for marriage equality, expanding voting rights here in the state, helping to pass the DREAM Act, and abolishing the death penalty. So again, that's a proven track record that he can get difficult things done, and he has clear plans for what he will do as governor, criminal justice reform, addressing the opioid epidemic, supporting clean and renewable energy, and something near and dear to my heart as a parent here in Maryland, fully funding our schools. Yeah. So when I say that Ben is a bold progressive leader, it's because he understands that we can do better, and that takes big ideas. And when I say we, he knows, I think more than any candidate that we've ever endorsed, that it's not only about having him, it's about building these coalitions. The work we're doing now will lead right into his time as governor. We have to not only back him now through the primary and into the general, but when he's in the governor's office, we can continue to stand beside Ben to build this change that Maryland and our nation so desperately needs. So I thank all of you so much for coming out to volunteer with us today, and I'm very proud to turn the mic over to Harry Lennox, who is also here to help us get Ben elected as governor.
Oh, you know, I'm an actor, and so I think about things that speak to the situation that we have here. There's a play called Henry V. And they say in that play, there's this line that says, "Oh, pardon that a crooked figure may attest in little place a million." That is to say that the narrator of that play, the prologue, says that one person can stand for 1,000,000 people. And that's what we have here today. And so you did such a magnificent job, your president, of explaining Ben's track record, that I'm going to talk a little bit and let Ben speak for himself, but I want to talk a little bit about you. In 2016, while Ben was doing some great work on behalf of Bernie Sanders, I was working for Hillary Clinton as a surrogate for that campaign. We both lost. We all should have won. I would have been happy for either of those things. But I remember I was at a campaign workers' stop, and it was a showing like this, you know, but not a whole lot of people, that is to say, but the people who were there were vitally, vitally important. And so I know that each of you attest for thousands and thousands of people. You may be wondering why I came from New York or LA to speak on behalf of my dear friend Ben. I've known him for some time. 2007, we met at a thing called the Renaissance Weekend. And I had the opportunity to get to know him, and it was very interesting just listening to. Please tell me your name again. Is it Sarah?
Sarah, yeah.
Meaning princess. Very interesting just to listen to her talk about a rare privilege, to not have to invent reasons to get excited about a candidate. So why is somebody from New York and LA and Chicago all the way out here? Well, because if whatever happens in Maryland will stand for what happens in the rest of the country. We rarely, I have never had the opportunity to actually just speak the facts, and they speak for themselves. Ben Jealous is one of the smartest guys I've ever met, and I've met some pretty smart people in my time, male and female. But he's there in the trenches when it's not sexy to be there. The way that we met is I was given some sort of a little session, a kind of breakout session at this Renaissance Weekend, and about acting or the career that I've had. And Ben was there, and he heard me answer a question about his cousin, Dave Chappelle, and he introduced himself afterward. But I was impressed by the fact that this little session, and not a lot of people who would have gone to, that he was there studying, he was there researching, he was there finding out what was really going on in the trenches. That's the great thing about Ben. I mean, when he was with the communication workers, I would imagine, there in Mississippi, he was the president of all the black newspapers in the United States of America. That means a lot to me because as a Chicagoan, I know what the Chicago Defender meant to so many people. For more than 100 years, this newspaper was carried around by Pullman porters. They were dropped off in places so people could find out what was going on in the rest of the country. Maybe the last great export of the United States of America is communications, the ability to transfer a message, to deliver, to speak, to communicate with each other. Ben has that rare ability. I've seen him move the crowd in NAACP conventions. I've seen him speak very specifically about the concerns that are facing everyday Marylanders and Americans in general. But his specific solutions and his solution-based campaign is to bring actual answers to the problems that are facing America. I just, the last 24 hours, have had the great privilege of listening to his solutions that nobody else is talking about. He's the one guy who has a solution for the black men being killed across the United States of America who are unarmed. He's the one guy who's talking about, not just the one person, but who has actual solutions for prison sentencing reform, drug sentencing reform. These are issues that are dear to me as a New Yorker, as a black person, as an American, and I am so honored to be able to come here because what affects Maryland affects the rest of us. So I'm going to turn the mic over to him But remember, you attest, a little place, a million. So God bless you. You came out in the rain, and this is where the campaigns get won. Not where it's sexy, but where it really counts. So ladies and gentlemen, my friend, your next governor, thank you, Sergeant.
You know, it's always good for my soul to be back at my old union, CWA. And as Harry said, this is where campaigns get won. And we've been in this for a long time. I've been on this road down for 400 days. We got 40 days left, less 38. And the wind's at our backs. We can win this. And when we do, we can make Maryland. And when we do, we can make Maryland a model for how we move our families forward, no matter what Donald Trump is tweeting about at that moment. We have the chance here to really unleash opportunity by making sure that every kid shows up to kindergarten ready to learn. And every kid graduates high school ready for a career, whether that's going into an apprenticeship program or to college. And we will do that by making sure that the promise is finally kept. The casino money and the lottery money will actually be used to help fully fund our schools. We can find out what happens in Maryland, what good is unleashed when our young people stop coming out of college mired in debt and can afford to buy a car or buy a home or start a business. We can find out what it's like to live in a state